This has been Philadelphia Focus.
The opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
Come on, everybody, it's time to rise up. We're living in a world and there's some crazy stuff happening. We need resolution. We have the power, we need restitution. First, we need to talk about how to begin. We're all in this together, feel free to chime in. This is Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. This is Conversation Unplugged.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. You're listening to Reverend Dr. Wayne M. Weathers on WWDB 860 AM, WWWE 1100 AM, The Real in Atlanta, Georgia. You're checking us out on Facebook Live, YouTube, as well as Periscope, which is now converting into Twitter by the end of this month. So it's a blessing to greet each and every one of you. Last week, I had to pre-record the show. My sister-in-law's mother transitioned from labor to reward. So last Thursday, my wife and family and I, we were in Washington, D.C., supporting my sister-in-law at our mother's homegoing service. So we're lifting up my sister-in-law and Evangelista Johnson in prayer. It's a blessing to greet you here today on March 25th, 2020. As we are here to have Conversation Unplugged. Our guest is my associate minister. My guest is our associate minister of Vision of Hope Baptist Church, Minister Yusuf Jackson. How you doing, Minister Yusuf Jackson?
I'm well, Pastor. I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, good. This is special for me because Conversation Unplugged didn't start at WWDB 860 AM. It didn't start at WWWE 1100 AM, The Real in Atlanta, Georgia. But it's a blessing because not only do I have Minister Yusuf Jackson on the line, but Conversation Unplugged started at www.spiritualconnectradio.com. So before we go any further into the subject today, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about spiritualconnectradio.com.
Spiritual Connect Radio is a radio station. is Christian based, but it's also community based as well. I created the station out of a need for the clean glass, as you might say. You know, it is so much filth and so much nonsense on a lot of other stations. I want us to be the clean glass. I want us to be the wholesome station you can go to and listen to with your grandma, with your kids, and learn something, be inspired. Be reminded that there is a God and that He loves us, and learn something that you can that will help enhance your life. You know, so we created Spiritual Connect Radio almost 6 years ago, and we're doing well. We're in the community, and like I said, I'm just so proud of what you're doing on the station and the other hosts, what they're doing on the station, and what they're doing. Just being followers of Christ.
And spiritualconnectradio.com. That's not just 9 to 5. 12 to 6, 1 to 2. That's 24 hours a day, correct?
Yes, sir. So we're on 24 hours a day. We got about 10 talk shows that we play throughout the week. But besides that, we're playing like good gospel music, even some hip hop gospel. And like I said, we want to be that station that could be the clean glass next to the dirty glass. We don't want to always condemn the dirty glass. We want to actually be a part of the solution. So that's why I created Spiritual Connect Radio about 6 years ago.
Wow. Amen. To God be the glory. And after station break, we want to give you the opportunity. We have station breaks every 15 minutes. So want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to plug in spiritualconnectradio.com. And then you and I, we're going to connect for PSA ads for spiritualconnectradio.com. So in the future, we can play some PSAs for spiritualconnectradio.com. Now, for our listeners, I know you didn't tune in just to listen about Spiritual Connect Radio, but if you're looking for great gospel music to be played, to listen to, check out spiritualconnectradio.com. Spiritual Connect Radio, we are the right connection. I got to say that because I'll be back on the air there at 5 o'clock p.m. But there's a series that we're working on Minister Yusuf, and it's called Being Black in America. And I don't want the show here, to just be situated on politics. Now, there's going to be a political guest next week on a different subject. But all that being said, being Black in America. And the subject today is visible but invisible. So let me set the landscape. So this past Saturday, I'm in Lowe's, right? In South Jersey, I'm in Lowe's, and I'm standing in line. So it's my turn to be waited on. So I call myself being nice, and I know the cash register didn't see me being nice, but there was a Caucasian couple that was like standing to the side, and I was going to let them come in front of me. But as I'm talking to him, right, then the cashier, he sees me, but he's waving the other folks to come in front of me. You got me? Someone said, well, that shouldn't be a problem because you were actually doing it. But no, we weren't doing it simultaneously. So when I caught what the cashier was doing and everything, the cashier is Caucasian, I'm African American, I literally went to the cashier and I said, excuse me, I says, I'm going to let you know right now, I wasn't going to allow you to allow them to cut in front of me. You got me? Because I'm standing visibly in front of you. You see me, right? But now you're trying to bypass me to wait on somebody else, and they were in another cashier's line. You got me? Now, someone say you're overly sensitive, you try to racialize everything. We as African Americans, we don't try to racialize everything. But the bottom line is, in America, there's certain segments of society that see us and then choose not to see us, that we're visible right in front of. But because of our humanity, they treat us as non-existents, treat us like we are not a part of society, like we are a menace. Unless we are seen as a criminal or a thug, you don't look at the positivity of us. You rather recognize the negativity of us. But yet when we're in front of you, you try to treat us like we don't even matter or we don't even exist. So share with me, have you ever had that experience in life, Minister Yusuf, being visible but treated invisible as an African American in America?
Yes, of course. And I think the older you are, the more experiences you have had with being treated as invisible, being treated as you don't matter. Us as our plight as African Americans in this country. And unfortunately, I have the answer is yes. But unfortunately, I have so many experiences of that happening. But I think the danger of it is, I remember a couple of years ago, President Obama even talked about how the country needs to embrace Black boys, African American young men, because we're being, well, I'm not that young anymore, but we're being, they're being marginalized and they're being forgotten about, and right now there's a big movement, really pushing empowering Black women, but Black men are being kind of forgotten about or ignored,
right? Right.
So, like I said, and that's like I said, it can be dangerous for the self-esteem and confidence building of our youth. But I remember every job I've ever worked, I experienced that, right? And you may call it, workplace bullying, or people ostracize you, things of that sort. But a lot of times when they see it doesn't really affect you, or you don't outwardly show that you're being affected by it.
Right.
Sometimes people come around, we're trying to figure out why you're not being affected by it, why you're not reacting to it. But to me, the solution has always been, I've always hated a bully growing up as a kid.
Right.
So if you were the kid being bullied, I would make sure I would befriend you, because I don't appreciate how someone else is trying to treat you or trying to, things like. So even like me, when I grew up in the workplace, I saw how the lawyers would treat, or mistreat the cleaning staff or the investigators or secretaries or the paralegals. You know what I mean? So I would make sure I would be the person I would have to speak to everybody. I'll make sure, the person knows I have their back, or, I would support them in anything they're doing. So we have to work a little bit harder sometimes.
Right.
To love on people who are being mistreated, and to show other people that I don't appreciate what you're doing. But it's like, for example, me being a police officer for 24 years. I remember being in the squad where our supervisor, no matter what we did, would not give us no accommodations for it. He would say, well, that's your job. But then my Caucasian counterparts were getting awards and accommodations for stupid stuff and for blunders. I remember one time, me and my partner, there was a guy who was wanted, a violent criminal who was wanted. We saw him in the arcade. He had one of the most powerful handguns you can have on him. We tried to arrest this guy. He started fighting with us, trying to get to his gun.
Wow.
We fought this guy tooth and nail. And I knew, well, I don't get this guy under control, get the gun from him. we may die in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to overcome this guy, subdue him, get him arrested, get the gun off him and everything. The chief told our sergeant, those guys deserve a combination for that. That was a really good job. He's a dangerous dude. He had all these warrants. We got nothing. Our sergeant told us, that's your job to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We got nothing for that.
Right.
My white counterparts, we were doing surveillance one night, trying to catch these guys who were stick-up kids in our district. These guys doing surveillance saw 2 young black boys break a lock off a pole, steal a bicycle. So he broke their cover. We trying to watch these guys who are robbery suspects. So I got 2 young boys stealing a bicycle. So the guys we were watching, the robbery guys got away. They arrested these 2 young boys stealing a bicycle that wasn't even worth nothing.
Wow.
We got accommodations. They were in the South Philly Review for breaking up a big bike ring, whatever, which wasn't true. And I'm like, they get accommodations for a blender? Are them kids stealing a bicycle?
Right.
We fighting vicious dudes with guns? So that's been a story. I could tell so many stories of that happening because there are people in our society who devalue or don't recognize us, or you said we are invisible. We can do no right because in their minds they have this sickness, which is racism, that says you are not as good as your white counterpart. But my thing is to that, I create a platform where we are empowered, we are acknowledged, we are appreciated, we are awarded.
Mm-hmm.
We make sure that we push each other up,
right,
hold each other, and encourage each other. So we can always control what other person does. And racism is really a sickness. And I don't know what the remedy is for that. What we know is Jesus Christ is love,
right,
for mankind. But but also it also makes me think about like the civil rights era and like Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
We were so working together. We were so successful. With Black Wall Street and black communities working together. But then people who are racist don't want to see that either.
Right.
But we should be encouraged to work together and help one another. It's like, for example, and one thing that what kind of hurts me is like jobs I've had, like working in law enforcement,
right,
working for the DA's office, right? So the best person for the job is always the job. It's kind of like who you know, who you're related to, whose nephew you are. It's like one time there was one case, I saw the case of a murder of a 3-year-old girl. I didn't recognize that at all. The lawyers did. And then there was one case, they had 2 detectives working on this case where this kid was maybe about like 4 years old. He was, his parents were like in their late teens. He gave up to adoption to the girl's parents. The biological father took the kid and never returned him. He on a run with this kid, 4-year-old, without no money, took a post, kid not getting washed, not eating right. They're trying to find this kid. Right. They had 2 detectives on this case for 8 months trying to find this kid, right? 2 Caucasians. They get Sergeant calls me. He said, I need to find this kid to come up with. Here's his girlfriend's address.
Mm-hmm.
I go to girlfriend's house. I sit down and talk to her and her girlfriend for 45 minutes on a Friday. Left my business card, left my number. I said, hey, man, had this guy call me. On Monday, the guy called me. Tuesday, I had everybody back where he's supposed to be. I get nothing for that. You know what I mean? So it's like they rather give a case or a job to someone because that's my homie or that's my drinking partner or that's my nephew, whatever, versus the person who's best for the job. So they don't care. If the best person for this job is happen to be a black guy or a black woman or Asian or Hispanic, you will be overlooked.
That's right.
Because you're not in certain circles or because of racism. Mm-hmm. Because people feel as though you're not good enough. And then you can prove over and over and over again that you're even better than your counterparts at doing certain things. But they don't care about that. That's not important to them. And the public always suffers because of this mentality and this system of doing things.
Wow. So, Minister Yusuf, let's do this. It is now almost 15 minutes to the hour. We're going to take a 15-minute station break on Conversation, a 30-second station break on Conversation Unplugged. We'll return in 30 seconds.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We're back on Conversation Unplugged on WWDB 860 AM with my guest, Minister Yusuf Jackson, who is the owner and operator, as well as a police officer, but owner and operator of www.spiritualconnectradio.com. It's also a radio station that I started Conversation Unplugged and still broadcast from 5 to 6 o'clock every Thursday. I failed to mention that Minister Yusuf is also my associate minister at Vision of Hope Baptist Church. He's our outreach minister. So, man, it's a blessing to have you on spiritualconnectradio.com. It's a blessing. And Daryl's checking us out. Deacon Daryl's checking us out via Twitter. So he says, hey, he sends a shout out to the both of us. So
All right.
Going back, you said something. There's a lot that I want to unpack in our conversation today. But you said something that's so critical that people don't understand in the African-American experience when we face racism and improper equity and things of that nature. You just said something very profound. And let's unpack this. Your exact quote you said was, "We can do no right." Can you explain to listeners out there who may be people of color or maybe may not be people of color, what does that statement mean when you said, "We can do no right"?
Right. So in the eyes of someone who is suffering from the sickness of racism, it's very hard for them to see a good black man or a good black woman, right?
Yes.
So, like, for example, like when I first, whatever, it's the DA's office. So when I first came to the DA's office like 15 years ago, and I kind of, it was this, it was just kind of this atmosphere of, like we're all criminals, he'll mess up again, or we get him next time. It was this thing like where you couldn't just be a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just be like a good guy who takes care of his family and goes to work every day and takes care of his community. And it's like something got to be wrong with him. Like, oh, dude, does he drink? Does he chase women? Does he smoke marijuana? Does he steal? Does he lie? It's like something got to be wrong with this guy. You just can't be just a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're black. You do something. And then then you got people like Hillary Clinton, calling us super predators and
right.
Things of this sort, man. So it was just kind of like this atmosphere of you cannot be who you appear to be. Like but the thing, but like I said, man, that racism is really a sickness. And a lot of people is just like it's in them. So like I said, we can do no wrong in their eyesight. But of course, those of us who believe and who know who we are, we know that God loves us, and it's like He has us, and it's not like it don't matter. We know how important we are to each other and to God and to ourselves, so we can overcome that. But it's a struggle and it's a fight, because you do, like I said, the public suffers, like you suffer from it.
Right.
You don't get everything you deserve, everything you work for. Because you are who you are, because you're black, or because you're, whatever, because you're a woman, or, So it's it's not a good situation, to have to work under someone like that who controls how much money you make, how many hours you can work,
Right.
Who controls, your resources. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times you got that power needs to be taken away from them type of people, and put in the hands of someone who's going to use it fairly, especially when it comes down to the court system, things of this sort. Even I remember like me being a DA detective, and it was like there were black families that needed stuff, who needed support, people who were victimized. And it was like, I got to take his family to the supermarket, give him some food, whatever, and put him up in the hotel. We got to take care of his family, whatever. But then it would be like, you know what? You're off the clock at 6 p.m., so whatever you're going to do to get done by 6 p.m., save for tomorrow. So so it's like basically no overtime available for that, for this black family. So I would have to stay late on my own time, make sure his family was safe and secure, and have what they needed for the weekend, and it was basically on me. But then when the white family needed something, oh man, whatever you got to do, make sure they're good, no clock, we got you, overtime's already been approved.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, what? All right, But it was last time it was so blatant. I was like, man, what's going on here in this department? But I knew, and so people would tell me, man, how can you work under that kind of leadership, whatever? And I'm like, what if I wasn't here? So it was like, and I didn't mind working extra hours and working hard for the other families because I know I'm doing it for them. This person's husband just got murdered, or her son just got murdered. This person just lost everything. I'm not going to leave them hanging because I'm making overtime for it. I'm a human being. I care about these people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do what I got to do and keep working. I know God going to bless me. God going to bless me, which He is and always has. But the thing is, I gotta, it's ministry.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna show. I wasn't even Christian then. I wasn't even saved yet. So. Right. But you know what I mean? But I had certain principles in place that were good principles that told me you do the right thing. If you go work extra 2 hours and don't get paid for it, so what? You know what? Come in late Friday.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would do these things, and like I said, unfortunately, it was such an imbalance. Like I said, I didn't do it for the people over me who may have been racist or may have been unjust, unfair.
Right.
I said, we serve these people. These families don't deserve this kind of treatment. I'm gonna do my job. So that's what I did. So a lot of times we gotta be willing to do go the extra mile sometimes, just for the sake of doing the right thing.
So there's something you said, Pastor Minister Yusuf. Sorry to cut you off because there's a lot that I wrote down. You really highlighted, and I'm getting a little amped. I really got to just like do a woosha moment,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, when you talked about the experience, we can do no right. And you was explaining just your experience, your professional experience and everything. It took me to what I'm reading verbatim from the New York Post. Governor Ducey slams Kamala Harris as worst possible choice for border response. Listen to this. Vice President Kamala Harris is the worst possible choice to lead the White House effort to tackle the migration crisis at the United States/Mexico border, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey said. He says the following: at no point in her career has Harris given any indication that she considers the border a problem or a serious threat, Ducey told reporters Wednesday in Tucson, Arizona. If President Biden's intent was to show that he was taking the issue seriously, he's really done the exact opposite, the Republican governor said, adding the president had completely trivialized the issue by putting someone in charge who flat out just doesn't care. How does that relate to the statement that we are trying to convey? That not trying, we're doing it very effectively. We can do no right.
Yeah, like I said, he doesn't even know what her mindset is or what she can and cannot do.
Exactly.
Right. And another thing is, she's voted in by the people. You know what I mean? So a majority of the people of this country believe that she and President Biden are going to do a good job and have our best interests at heart.
Right.
Right. So give him an opportunity, give him a chance to do that. Right. It's like when Trump first got elected, a lot of us say, give him a chance to see what he does. And those first 90 days was crazy. So
it was.
Ooh, okay. Now we saw what he did, what he's about, right? So, you know, so yeah, like I said, that mindset is just so dangerous because he wouldn't disregard her because he's black and she's a woman,
Exactly.
or vice versa, right? So, but if she's the best person for the job, but see, he'd rather have someone else there who has his mentality, his thought process, you know, man, who's male and white, you know, and who, like, you know, was against immigration. But then you got to look back, think about, dude, how did you get here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the only people who are really supposed to be here is American Indians and indigenous people who were here in this land first. You know what I mean? So we're all here illegally, and we were kidnapped and brought here.
And by the way,
So,
Native Americans, they're looked at as invisible as well. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I know. You know, so it was crazy. I remember, like me, I speak to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If we make eye contact, if we in close proximity, I'm saying hello, good afternoon, you know, what have you, whatever. That's just me. I speak to everybody. So I remember, you know, working in the office, and there are certain people who will never speak back, won't say anything. Right. Which is fine. But I didn't take my energy and my brain power to try to remember that people don't speak back. I should speak to everybody because I'm not even going to even try to figure out, the guy with the red hair in the third queue don't never speak back. So you know what I mean? I'm speaking to everybody. So that's fine. So there's one guy I noticed who never say anything back. Then one day he said, "Hey, what's up, Jackson, man? How you doing? Can I ask you a question about something?" And I'm like, "You know my first and last name? I thought I was invisible to you."
Right.
I remember, I was like, dude, wow, you know my first, you know exactly who I am? Oh, okay, what you need? You know, so, and another example is, I remember when I was in college, and there was, I was in class, and there was a guy in my class, a black guy, who was the only two minorities in the class. He was very, very talented in filmmaking and in the film business and the communication. And people like try to keep us apart.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to befriend him for his knowledge. So every time me and him would have a conversation, and he was talking about something, explaining something to me, next thing I know, some of Caucasians would come on his left, some come on his right. They get in a conversation. They would make a circle around him in some kind of way. I'll be outside the circle.
Mm.
It was just teasing how they would do it. You know what I mean? You know, it's like they planned it. Like, you know what I mean? So to try to keep that non-information from getting to me.
Right.
They were afraid, don't let them get cool. You know, and then like I remember me being new to the detective unit, and there was two black officers already there, and it was like, I don't know if you want to, be cool with them. They get in trouble a lot, or they're not like on the sergeant's, bad list, so you might not want to be associated with them. Watch out for them. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
This guy, I'm talking about some video. This guy was like a pastor, and he speaks 2 languages, and he knows karate. He's the best detective I ever worked with.
Wow.
But you telling me from the door, be careful with them guys. You don't want to be seen associated with them. Like, what? What are you talking about? You see what I'm saying? So they keep us divided, and they keep you, isolated, and to be easy, because together we're stronger.
Exactly. Exactly.
So and then it was funny. The one funny thing is, I'll tell you real quick is, and we all work different shifts. So it was like, sometimes it started with sending me on a dangerous assignment by myself. And Tim would just go with me, off duty, make sure I was safe. And stuff like that we had to do because, you said we can do no wrong. The little black guys up to what's going on. So, it's sickening, man, but that should motivate us to really step up and work together. And I think an ally that we have is the LGBTQ community. Because I know I have a lot of friends who are in that community, who are Caucasian, who they're like, hey, man, listen, there's a lot of racist people in this job. Or they say, hey, listen, what I mean? Like, they've been discriminated against also. So a lot of them don't appreciate when they see different things being done to blacks and Hispanics and Asians. So they will speak up. So that's a good ally for our communities.
Wow. So on that note, we're coming to 30 minutes to the hour. So we're going to take a 30-second station break on WWDB 860 AM in Philadelphia, WWWE, the real 1100 AM in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to a 30-second station break at this time.
At any given moment, somewhere in America, a baby is taking a first step, a developmental milestone. But for too many parents, a baby's first steps aren't just a milestone, they're a miracle. These are the parents of babies who were born prematurely or with birth defects. It's a crisis affecting more than 500,000 babies in the United States each year. You can help them by joining volunteers like you who walk and march for babies. The money you raise funds research and local programs that help babies overcome the challenges of premature birth and birth defects. Together, our steps make stronger, healthier babies a reality for thousands of families. Sign up today at marchforbabies.org to take the steps that help make milestones and even miracles possible. Who will you march for?
You're back on WWDB Conversation Unplugged with my guest, Minister Yusuf Jackson, not only police officer, but he's the owner and operator of Spiritual Connect Radio, located on www.spiritualconnectradio.com, 24 hours, 7 days a week, gospel music with 10 talk shows that he has on his radio station. I wanted to go back on a couple of things here. There's a couple of statements that you made that really came to mind, Minister Yusuf Jackson, is the fact that they tend to want to, how can you say, see us visible when we are villains, but not see us visible when we are, made in the image of God. And something that was said, like this whole Kamala Harris piece that's taken place about she's not qualified, et cetera, et cetera. There it is, the sexist, chauvinistic, racist mentality to use every device available to villainize Kamala Harris, that a qualified black woman, a qualified woman of color, who can do above and beyond more than what the previous president and vice president could do. You got me. Her experience means nothing. And when you want to, doesn't mean anything. And if you want to really talk about the whole invisible experience, I remember when President Obama was running and Sarah Palin was running, as a vice presidential candidate on McCain's ticket. Now, she does not have the academics achievement as former President Barack Hussein Obama. He was, a Harvard grad, did his undergraduate work, was a community activist. He was I believe a state senator, a state rep, then became a United States senator, maybe wasn't a senator long, started running for the president of the United States of America. And so when Sarah Palin began to lodge her criticism against at that time, Senator Barack Hussein Obama, who later became the first African-American president, Barack Obama, he's just a community activist, wiped away his bachelor's, experience, wiped away, his law degree. You got me, wiped all of that away, constitutional law. Yes, he was a community organizer, but wiped away the fact that he served in state government just like she did, but she didn't finish. You got me? And then wiped away the fact that he served as United States Senator, wiped all of that experience. All of that became invisible. All of that became invisible. So I'm going to need to pause right here. I remember Valerie Poole, she commented and says, I've realized racism is inherited and some don't see themselves as racist. I agree. When you are called out about your racist remarks, you become defensive and angry. This is the environment some people know, although that is no excuse. Val, you're absolutely correct. Most racists that I've come in contact with, that's the first thing that come out of their mouth. I'm not a racist. And then they got to highlight how many black friends they have to prove that they're not a racist. You know that experience, Minister Yusuf? Yeah, it amazes me. I'm not a racist. You come across, you make racist statements, right? And then you make the racist statements, and then all of a sudden, I'm not a racist, and I got black and Hispanic friends to prove that I'm not a racist. You can have black and Hispanic people around you, but that still doesn't discount the fact that you're a racist. That's the bottom line. You know, me, I could be a chauvinist. I could have my wife and her sister and my sister-in-laws all around me. I could have my daughters and my nieces all around me. But if my chauvinistic ways is inside of me, it don't matter how many people I surround myself with who are female. If that chauvinism mentality is in me and I haven't denounced it, rebuked it, and got rid of it, it still makes me a chauvinist, regardless of how many females are around me. So I don't care how many minority folks you have around you. If you are a racist, you just straight up a racist with minority people around you, period. So, yeah, you know, I go back to an experience I had, educational experience as an instructor. So this whole concept of visible, but treated invisible. So I was scheduled to teach this particular class. I know some folks on Facebook going to see it, but, you know, hey, I don't care. I'm not going to mention name, not going to mention institutions, but I'm going to call it for what it is. So I'm scheduled to teach this class, right? So we're scheduled to teach this class. I'm supposed to co-teach it with one of the instructors. And so next thing you know, we talked about it almost 6-7 months in advance that you're going to co-teach this particular class. I'm not big. It's not that I'm looking for a position or anything. You say we're going to teach, we're going to teach. So now I'm in a meeting about, this is a year ago during a pandemic. I'm in a meeting, and then it's like they're going over the rosters, like for this coming particular module or this semester, these are the teachers that's going to teach the class. And so then all of a sudden, right, it says this particular class, they're going to revamp it. We need an instructor to help teach with so-and-so. So now I'm irritated because as the minority in the room, I see what's going on. I'm invisible, right? So I'm says, hold up. I need to be quite clear about something here. We talked about me being a part of this class, but now all of a sudden it was agreed that I was going to help assist teaching this class, doctoral class. But now all of a sudden I'm just hearing that you don't want me a part of this class. I said, so if this particular person was somebody else, I put it in their core, that person has the liberty or freedom of allowing that person to teach that particular class and everything. I said, so if they don't want me to teach, I'll just direct my energy somewhere else instead of teaching this class. And so they tried to pacify it and everything because I indirectly called it out. And I just got off the Zoom call. Now somebody say, oh, you was emotional. You a pastor. You know how they get minister. You said, you a pastor. See, when they want to make a point, they don't just say pastor. They say, you a pastor. You know what I mean? yeah. You a pastor and you don't get emotional. No, here's the deal. There's a minority in the room. I was treated as invisible. Listen, if you want to go in another direction, don't have me come into a meeting and don't have just the unction just to say, hey, you made a decision. You wanted to go in another direction. I respect that. But here I am, I'm sitting in the meeting. We talked about this almost a year ago, and I'm sitting in this meeting, and now all of a sudden, the bigwig decided that he didn't want me in the room. He wanted to have somebody else in the room, and then decided at another meeting, he wanted to try to like smear it in my face and talk about he got this person assistant and that person assistant. I could care less. It's a stipend. It doesn't pay my bills. You know, I'm qualified where I can teach anywhere, everywhere that I choose. You got me? But what frustrated me about that in my, at that time, 52 years of living, actually 51 going on 52 now, I'm 53, is the fact that it's an invisible situation. You know what I mean? I'm a grown person. I'm a grown man with a doctorate degree, master's degree, and bachelor's degree, and I refuse to allow society to treat me as an invisible person with all of the stuff that I bring to the table.
Right, and you definitely should, you know. And like I said, you were too talented. You bring too much to the table, you know, to let anybody treat you any kind of way. So I definitely agree. You know, basically, don't waste my time. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I mean, well, don't waste my time and energy. You know, you said you can definitely utilize somewhere else and appreciate it where people can learn and grow and you know, and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And we're helping, yeah. So, you know, and the thing I always say is, you know, whenever you don't like something, you know, create something that's better. You know, you can't be a part of that system to improve it. You know, create something that's equally better, or create something that's like I always say, you know, getting clean class. You know, so that's why we created Spiritual Connect Radio. I actually had a youth empowerment show on another station, on a hip hop station.
Right.
But the music that was being played really didn't complement what we were talking about with our youth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the music was like, you know, kind of some violent music. You know, it was some sexually charged music. I had like 12-year-olds on my show. Between ages like actually as young as 10 up to like 21. So that's why I decided, hey, listen, I need to like play some gospel or play something I have to worry about the music. But I know it's going to be fine. It's going to be inspiring in terms of singing about God. And I need to be like, I need to be the opposite of what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone else, because internet radio, there's no like FCC regulation, so people are like using profanity, people are talking crazy, people are talking about sex, all these kind of things early in the morning, so where our kids are listening. So I mean, there's a time and place for everything. So I wanted to create a platform where we could do ministry, we could inspire people, we could help people, we could be about the community and about social issues, social justice.
Mm-hmm.
Remind people that God is real and God is our help beat. And He's the one who's going to get us over and bring us through.
Right.
So we created Spiritual Connect Radio, and and we've been pushing forward ever since. And actually the station, we actually just started a motorcycle riding group. It's called Cruiser for Christ.
Right.
Because me being someone who rides motorcycles, and a lot of motorcycle riding groups out there, a lot of them are, they're real. A lot of them are very, very worldly. A lot of people drink, smoke marijuana. A lot of people, whatever. So a lot of people, as we say, ride dirty.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure. So I wanted to make sure I had a group where people could come to if you don't want to be part of certain culture, certain aspects of the culture of my bikes. Here's a group that you can ride with who are about that.
Right.
So we have an alternative. And another thing that I didn't like was a lot of the riding groups, especially the sport bike people, not people, my brothers and sisters, they ride so aggressively and so fast. They want you to keep up.
Right.
And to me, that's not fair to a new rider because you're putting someone in danger who may not be able to ride those speeds yet. So I want to create a riding group with an atmosphere that's conducive to new riders because we want you to be safe as possible. We want you, to learn safety tips. We want you, to enjoy your experience. Being on, we call it wind therapy.
Right.
And a lot of us, we love it. But like I said, if people expect you to new riders, hey, keep it with them, and they're riding 120 miles an hour on the highway, I think that's not fair to a new rider.
Right. So there's something I wanted to bring up, and thanks for sharing that experience and everything, the visibility. You said something, you was talking earlier, and as your pastor, I get hit with these deep thoughts in the midst of, conversations and everything. And one thing I notice is that the dominant society wants to treat us as invisible, but then they want to inject what I would call controlled visibility. And let me explain what I mean by controlled visibility. Shut up and dribble. Controlled visibility. So the dominant society is trying to say, I want to control your visibility. And when you step out of the confines of my soundboard of control, then I need to shut you up to put you back in your place because you are the puppet and I am the puppet master, and I will allow you to be visible on my terms, but not visible on your terms. Can you unpack that the next 2 minutes before we go on a 30-second station break, controlled visibility?
Yeah, you see, unfortunately, it's kind of like for example, like you're telling people how to grieve. Mm-hmm. You're telling people what they're going to do. And so, and that is dangerous because, so he's telling us we can't be peaceful and take a knee to bring attention to a cause. But we can't do that. But then, we can't riot. We can't speak out. We can't do anything. We can't sit down. We can't lay down. We can't stand up. We can't speak out. So what do you want us to do? Mm-hmm. Right? So, like I said, and like, for example, when we all saw George Floyd get murdered on video,
right?
We saw this man. We saw him get murdered. It was basically a public lynching.
Yes.
I mean, how can you tell someone how? So we all are grieving George Floyd's murder, which we witnessed. You know, how can you tell us how to do that? Right? There's no wrong way to grieve.
Right.
Right? So you're trying to control people, and in essence, you're losing control of everything.
Right.
Right? So it's backfiring. Right? So you need to sit down and listen and figure out how can we work this out as a country. If you want to continue being one country.
Right.
Right? Because there's not, you know, so, you know, it's dangerous waters you're walking in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we continue to be a country and come together, then let's do that. You know, so the thing is, you know, you got to be able to, there's got to be a give and take, right? And so, like, for example, one example I use a lot is when Donald Trump, before he was president, you know, when he was, you know, a business mogul or whatever, and he really attacked the Central Park Five.
Yes.
You know, who were kids who were falsely accused of a rape in the park, and they were exonerated by DNA and by the right guy actually confessed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time when it happened, Donald Trump put out four-page ads in the biggest newspapers in New York saying they should get the death penalty. They should be killed. Right?
Right.
So now, when that comes to light that these kids were innocent, he never backed off of that. He never apologized. So now you're the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this information comes out. So now this is a great opportunity for you to work on some racial healing of this divide by just apologizing and walking back your statement, which you said years ago. And then the truth has come to light. But he refused to do that. You see what I'm saying? So this, you know, it just really just helps feed the sickness of racism that's in our country.
So I know we're a little bit over, but before we go into our station break, is it fair to say that to treat African Americans in America as invisible is a product of racism who refuses to identify the full humanity of people of color?
Yeah, that's correct. Is racism, and there's also a lot of racists. They want to hold on to. They feel as though they're losing their power, so they want to hold on to power and control everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like in Philadelphia, around as soon as Barack Obama became the first black president of the United States, like a year and a half later, we got the first black district attorney of Philadelphia.
Right.
So people at the dean's office was losing their mind. Like, oh my God, we're losing power. Oh, we're losing. Oh, it's doomsday. You know, so because they felt that they were losing something, losing power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so these racists, they want to be empowered. They want to be above everyone else. But see, Trump is like telling them, "I'm gonna put you guys back on top.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you guys back in power. I'm going to empower, you know, the middle class and the low class, you know, Caucasian male. You know what I mean? So people are just becoming radicalized, you know, by that thought process.
You know, we're going to bypass the station break, PSA station break. Val Poole, a member of Vision of Hope Baptist Church, says the following: when you come to the table with credentials, knowledge, and experience, you become a threat. Some people's mindset is that people of color can't come to the table with all of that. On the other hand, they want to get what you have and run with and get the credit for it. Wow, that is a mouthful, positive mouthful. What's your thought there, Minister Yusuf?
Well, you know what? I mean, it's right, and that is true in a whole lot of situations. But you know what I've experienced over the years working in government and working, you know, in corporate America. What I've seen is, like you said, if you're not going to do it our way or play ball, or you want to be an outspoken, you know, black person, and you want to speak out against things that's going on in this corporation, this company, or city government, what I've seen done is most of the black men who speak up, take a stand against a racial injustice or social injustice or something wrong, they come together, they destroy you.
Yeah, yes, they do.
They destroy you. They come together, they conspire together, they lie on you, they destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times with black women, what I've seen them do, if you like really radical, they destroy you too. But what I've seen them do with black women is promote them. give you all this money, give you this big position. So now the energy you had as far as fighting for your people, you kind of lose it because now you're making like $200,000 a year, and you want to keep that certain lifestyle. You feel that you made it, so now you kind of get quiet. And now, a lot of energy you had as an activist, you don't have no more because you're making all this money, and you got a company car, got this big title, you're the first black woman to do this certain position, whatever. You want to hold on to it, so you get soft.
Yeah.
So I've seen this personally. Either they kind of like buy you out, buy your silence, or they just crush you and destroy you. A lot of times what they're doing is they're crushing the black men, right? And then they're like really just putting the black women in a certain position where they can't be effective or say too much. And then a lot of the black women are like, oh, why there's no black men up here at my level.
Right.
Right, because it's going to have destroyed them. You know what I mean? And you're kind of helping that system. You see what I'm saying? So they are very strategic in what goes on. It's like, for example, I have a lot of issues with the FBI and how they do things, and how they don't have a lot of, oversight, right? So, like, for example, the FBI will come into our colleges to recruit our top-minded people, our most talented and intelligent, college kids. And they're going to take you out of our communities, which we need these young, energetic, talented kids to help make our communities better. But they're going to put you in the FBI and use you as a weapon against your community. You know what I mean? So they strategically are taking some of the greatest minds of our youth and putting them, in a government entity that just built to, destroy our communities.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's all done strategically. Now, I've seen it done. You know what I mean? So just imagine if all the talented and intelligent young black people coming to college work towards making our communities better.
Right.
All that talent, all that intelligence, and all that good energy, but now you're being used. You're overseas or whatever. Or you're like being used to, just fight crime, whatever. But you know what I mean. But like I said, we're losing out. Which strategically is being done.
So
he was at a certain level.
So here's a few more questions to ask before we close out, because we have to finish at 55 minutes to the hour. I wrote this statement down at the beginning of the show, and it says the following. Let me get your comments on it. When you treat people of color as invisible, you treat their issues as invisible. You treat their humanity as invisible, which places the invisible to become visible by saying Black Lives Matter. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. But that Black Lives Matter movement, it has a lot of good. It has actually the mobilization and some of the changes that are being done, like on city government, state government. That movement has really sparked a lot of good things, a lot of good changes. I do have some issues with things they are doing as well. But like I said, the initial Black Lives Matter movement sparked a lot of good. I've seen, and, if you watch, there are some good positive changes being done. I'm not sure that we're kind of working something else. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of dissatisfaction now with Black Lives Matter movement. But the statement "Black Lives Matter" is a true just statement. Black Lives Matter. So, then when people turn around and say, "Well, all lives matter, this lives matter, police lives, blue lives matter," it's like, it's kind of like a slap in the face. It's kind of like, all right, so you're just ignoring our pain. We're talking about everybody's pain. So, but right now, things are going on which need to be addressed in the Black community. But also, we got to realize there are certain things in our community only we can fix. And we can do it if we come together. Right. Because like last year in Philadelphia, our murder rate was over 500, between 500 and 700 people were murdered in Philadelphia last year. They were not murdered by police officers. You know what I mean? There are young people in our communities who are just so adapt to violence.
Right.
You know, we got to find a cure for that lust for murder and for violence and shooting people. You know, we got to take our communities back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have the men and women to do that. You know, like Dick and Darrell, us, we all talk about. If every church in Philadelphia just donated 2 men or 2 people to be involved in some community efforts,
Mm-hmm.
that would easily be about 1,000 people on the streets, boots on the ground. You know what I mean? In certain communities that need things, you know, people who are hurting, people who need healing from the violence in the communities. If we're all showing up, just showing the love of Christ, you know, what's going to happen? You know, nothing's going to happen while we're here.
Right.
You know what I mean, it should be contagious, you know. So, but we're so divided in our churches, you know. And like you can talk about the other night, like for example, in my dad's neighborhood I grew up in, there's 30 churches in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
There's 30 churches in that one neighborhood, but the neighborhood has not changed. Neighborhood has not been transformed. So something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If there's 30 houses of worship in that one neighborhood, and that neighborhood is still in plight and poor and poverty, people still hungry, people still don't know Christ, you know, then we are failing. You know, I mean, what's going on? We're not being effective. That community has not risen up, you know, for the good, you know, for betterment. So, like, you know, what's going on? Because when all 3 churches came together, did things and really did something together in that community would probably just flourish overnight.
So let me do this, Minister Yusuf. I want to go on. We got to bring you back on to talk about that. We have to get ready to close out in everything. Because what you just said, I want to summarize, because I want to just like cut off and say, oh, we have to go. But I need to say this as we get ready to conclude. That requires, although we as people of color are being treated as invisible, we cannot treat the issues in our community as invisible, because as long as we treat it as invisible, then we've taken the oppressor's tactics and used it on each other. That's not benefiting our community, but hurting our community. That's a whole nother subject to discuss. So let me ask a question. You available today at 5? Man, I got a good subject to talk about today on your radio station and challenges pastors face. I want to talk about Kirk Franklin.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm actually out today.
Okay. All right. So let's continue this conversation will continue at 5 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to Conversation Unplugged on WWDB 860 AM, WWWE 1100 AM, Atlanta, Georgia, as well as on Facebook Live. You're listening to Reverend Dr. Wayne M. Weathers. We are unplugging today as we talked about being Black in America, visible and invisible, with Minister Yusuf Jackson. Join us on www.spiritualconnectradio.com at 5 p.m. The conversation continues. Challenges of being a pastor, the Kirk Franklin situation. Join us. Take care and God bless.
Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged.